Stock. How much to give your co-founders and employees? For many entrepreneurs, choosing to offer shares and stock options raises a tricky question. How much stock shall I give to the key and early joining employees? How to make sure that conditions are fair for everybody and that you are building a great employer branding, which means a company that people want to work for and keep working for? The answer is more simple than you might think. Here is a quick scenario where a few buddies get together to build their own companies, where the shares proportion distributed in that setting will depend on the agreement between the friends. I have seen these situations in the past where it was said, let's do 50-50, but then one ends up working a lot of days and nights and the other gets a day job elsewhere, or just being a 9-to-5 brat and not taking the venture very seriously.
I really don't think you're taking this seriously enough.
I suggest thinking a lot before committing to the 50-50 situation in order to avoid frustrations on your side. If the mistake has been done already, you can still correct it during the next fundraising event by negotiating with your investors an anti-dilution provision for you as a founder, but not for the rest of the founders. I have done this in the past myself. Keep in mind, for your future investors, out of the FFF circle, friends, family and fools, that it's not a good sign for them if you own the majority of the stock and if you are the only decision maker in the company, as it's being considered as too risky. Anyhow, let's focus on a more probable case where you are still looking for a co-founder or aiming for filling a key executive position, and you must decide the number of shares that should be distributed to them. When deciding, always ask yourself a question first. Am I a technical co-founder myself? If the answer is yes, then you are already in a good position to keep more and give less to the new technical or non-technical founders. Particularly at the early stage, technical founders provide higher value to the company than non-technical ones. It's just the way it is. In the case of an early exit or an acqui-hire, for example, when people buy your company for your patent and key tech talent, your awesome CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, or COO, Chief Operations Officer, would just not bring you any value in negotiations with the prospective buyer. If your answer is no, then here are my 2 cents. Depending which country you're in, sometimes it's hard to find talent, and if you might spend months or years finding the right fit, and you may need to give more from your pie and even pay a current market salary or slightly below on top of the giving away a significant amount of shares. For top position to fill, such as CTO, count on giving at least 6-8% and a maximum of 15-18% in some extreme cases. If it's a CMO or CEO, which are non-technical roles, then and if you believe they're absolutely right for your company at this moment in time, anything below 4% is very appropriate.
Is that enough?
That seems more than fair.
When it comes to employees, it's important to put together an ESOP, employee stock option plan, and have it already done when creating your new company. This one is the company's Bible for all questions related to stock and can be frequently updated without any notice or signature from all parties who have already received the stock. The ESOP amount could be anywhere between 5-10% from 100% of all shares, and the amount of payload shall be equally distributed among the co-founders. You won't ask your new employees to pay for the stock, even if it's a nominal price, which means you have to pay for it yourself. In my current company, Nanos AI, the ESOP is rather high, 16%. And it was a deliberate decision as we, co-founders, wanted to have enough compensation incentive for our future employees for years to come. From this ESOP, you are going to draw small portions of stock each time when a new team member is hired. Here's how it works in our company. We are quite realistic. All early employees got the same amount of shares at a very nominal price.
The same rules apply for everybody.
They don't need to pay for these shares, but if they eventually cash in, this nominal amount will be deducted from the overall payment they are going to receive. It's important to know that you can always grant more stock to an extraordinary performing employee later. If you are still having doubts, I suggest starting with 5 to 10K in stock options for low responsibility position and various consultants, and then going up to 70, 80K for high responsibility, hard to find gems in your new company. Setting up company's conditions for stock options are also very important. Co-founder shares and ESOP, as well as if any investors on board and their shares, will be reflected in a cap table. What is a cap table? It's a list with information on stock, financing, and ownership in your company. It's basically an Excel sheet. There are multiple tools where you can keep your values and have those automatically adjusted if one parameter is changed. But Excel does the job if the co-founder number of co-founders and employees is below 20 to 25 and the number of fundraising events is below 3. It's important to keep your cap table clean, meaning that there are no dead bodies in it. People who are no longer with the company but kept a significant amount of stock.
I see dead people.
I promise I'll get rid of the bodies.
It needs to be updated frequently, for instance, with the information on people leaving your company and the stock being kept, if at all. It's a painful topic, but as an entrepreneur, you may have experienced a situation where one of the key bodies is acting weird and not playing along anymore. A well thought through shareholders agreement, or SHA, will help you to keep the cap table clean. A good SHA should define following important conditions. What is a good lever? What is a bad lever? It has to set a long cliff period, and it has to provide a slow-paced vesting schedule. Ideally, you want your cliff period to be at least 18 months. And if a co-founder or an employee leaves before that, then they have no right to keep the stock. In the case of the vesting period, it should last for another 2 to 4 years, vesting monthly for a small percentage, let's say between 2 and 2.5% every month. Let's have a look at this example scenario where an employee, let's say a developer, receives 30K worth in stock options, usually described in an allocation agreement, which is a separate document signed between you and your employee or a co-founder. Let's say current share price is $50, amount of shares 30K, cliff period 18 months since the first day of work, full-time only, part-time doesn't count, vesting 2%. Imagine if there is a fundraising event that drove your company valuation, let's say from 10 million to 15 million, so that in this year the price per share goes 50%. Now your employee is richer and his stock options are worth 45K on paper, but he can't sell it at any time. And he should keep this paper in a cool, dry place until company gets sold. It's a great incentive and a sweet addition to the annual salary if you currently cannot afford to pay their full market price they would get elsewhere. For instance, if they go to Google or Apple or other less hyped corporations. If he or she leaves the company before 18 months from the start, no stock can be taken away from your company. If he or she leaves in 18 months plus 2 months, then 2 plus 2, 4% from 30K leaves with that employee or a co-founder. Having those conditions set in place will help you keeping your cap table as clean and your head as sane as it can be. Hiring is a guess and firing is a knowledge, not my words, but I completely agree with you, Gary Vee. Depending on the country, once the company is sold, the amount of cash your colleagues receive is considered to be in addition to their salary. And this is subject to income tax. In some countries, for instance in Switzerland, if you join the company as a co-founder at the earliest stage, you can avoid taxation on your income, which is a great deal.
Oh shit. Tax-free?
Tax-free.
Taxes? I don't pay no damn taxes.
Overall, stocks and stock options are a great way to keep your colleagues engaged and make them feel as the co-owners of your company if done right. An important disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer and only speaking from my own experience as a co-founder of Nanos AI and other companies. Before making a decision, it is best to get affordable legal advice in your country to help you to avoid possible mistakes and frustration. For more insight into the startup life, leave a comment below suggesting the next topic. Ping me if you need the template for your upcoming ESOP allocation agreement or cap table or any other contracts.